Good morning everybody. I'm back at Southfield Reservoir. I think it's about 2 years since I've fished a live match here for you, so I'm really looking forward to it. I've drawn peg 42, just drew on the lane this morning. They are doing some work down there on that lane, so we can't park down there, but the parking behind the pegs here is fantastic, as you can see, and there's a nice lay-by there for parking, which is great. Dad's in the van. And this is me, peg 42. Got some wind on it from the right, as you can see. Just really the middle of this long bank really. There are 28 anglers here today. I've done a few coaching sessions here, but it's obviously very different when you're sat here on your own from what it is in a match. So it's probably going to be a two-line approach. I think feeding is going to be very interesting today because I've been told that there are still lots and lots of small fish in here which aren't the target, so that's something that I can only work out once I get fishing. So I'm going to get set up, show you the mix, and by that stage I'll have decided how I'm going to fish it. Well, it's a few minutes to the off. I'm all set and ready. Dad's got his brolly there. He's all cosy underneath the umbrella. I'm going to have a very clear start. I'm going to stick my neck out and tell you exactly what I'm going to do, just to see how it works. I've been told that there's lots of small fish in here at the moment. Just, you know, that's what happens every year. Lots of small fish. They're not the target. You know, I'm going to try and target a better stamp fish. So I'm going to show you the kit when I get up there. I'm going to go down the worm route. You know, I get a feeling that if all those small fish are there, based on my experiences of this venue, is that if you're going to put maggots on, if you're going to put pinkies on, those baits can just get smashed straight away and flattened. And you know, I don't want to be coming back with small fish and having sitting there with a bait that's potentially damaged. So I'm going to go down the worm route. I don't mean I'm going to put loads and loads of worms in. I am going to feed worms from the off. I'm super confident that that'll be all right. But I'm going to fish with chunky bits on the hook. I want to fish a nice, kick off with a nice size 14 hook with a nice chunky bait on, one that's going to deter those small fish hopefully, and be a little bit more selective for those better stamp fish. So here we are. Like I said, there's nothing riding on today. It is an open match. However, if you do win one of these Wednesday matches, they do have a final for those winners, which is quite good. They call it, I think it's Super Wednesday, I think it is. So the winner from today will get the chance to fish a final later on in the year. And I think there are about 4 of these matches left, and they are open matches in their own right. So even if you're not bothered about fishing it to try and qualify for the final, it is an open match. So 2 rods, that is it. Said it was simple. I've got an 11-foot slim set up there with braid. That is pretty much braid almost direct. I have got a 1 meter leader on there, which I'll tell you about in a minute, and then I've got an Horizon Pro distance there, 12 foot 3.7 meter, again with braid on, and that is for fishing my longer line. I'm going to keep it really simple with 2 lines. I'm going to fish 20 meters and 40 meters. That is it. And I'm going to be quite active rotating those lines. So I know a lot of people feed a short line here and leave it until the last 2 hours. I don't really want to do that today. I'm going to try and rotate both lines, 20 and 40, throughout the day, just to see what happens. We've got a nice wind on it, and that 40 meters, it doesn't sound much, but it looks all right for the wind that we've got on. We've got a bit of room, so I've got a spare peg to my right, so it's peg, 2 anglers, miss a peg, so we've got a bit of room. And it just feels right to fish 40 meters. It might be too short, I don't know, but we'll find out. I've got to start somewhere. And with that line not being too long, I can have periods of activity on there to try and trigger bites and that sort of thing, which is a way that I like to fish on here. They are both free running rigs. I've got braid direct on the 12-foot rod for out there, and the other one I've got a 1 meter leader on there, just because it's nearer, because it's closer. I just feel that if I am going to be hooking any bream, I just feel a 1 meter leader, it kind of pins the rig down nicely behind the feeder. It sinks a little bit quicker as well. but it just puts a little bit of stretchiness, a little sponginess into the rig, just in case I'm hooking bigger fish. Super simple bait tray. You've seen the ground bait. That's a little bit damp at the minute, but I could play around with the consistency of that. That's just F1 green, as you've seen. Some water there, I've got some dead pinkies there, I've got some dead maggots, and then I've got plenty of worms. They're all worms in there. So I've got a kilo this morning from Wickersley Angling on my way here. So I've got some there ready for chopping, selection of feeders, and my hook lengths, and that is it. As regards to the hooks, I'm going to kick off with a size 14 MXB2 hook, and I've actually been trialling and experimenting with some new prototype hook length line, the Matrix ones that I can't show you at the moment, but I've been using that for the last few months. So I'm going to be using that line in the diameter, which is 0.12, and that is it. So I'm going to feed the long line first, then feed my short line, and then I'm actually going to start fishing on the longer line to kick off with. So all I'm going to do is, it's about a minute to the off. Just got, as you can see, a nice horizon feeder. Just going to put a couple of them out there. I think I'm going to put 3 out there, I think. I'm going to put 3 in just to kickstart the swim. And then I'm obviously going straight on that line as well. But I'm going to put probably 4 feederfuls with a 5-hole feeder on that 20 metre line. And just take it from there. The great thing with this venue is, as you can see for quite a few pegs down that way, and the same to my right. So if anyone is catching, then you're obviously going to have some, a good idea of what they're catching, how fast they're catching, and all that sort of stuff. So, and then if I've got to think about changing anything, then obviously I shall do that. Just wet my braid. I'll make sure your braid's wet, and that's it. So I'm going to put 3 out there. I'm going to put probably a couple with just ground bait, and then just 1 with some food in, because like I say, I'm going to be going straight on that. So I don't want to put loads of bait on that line, because if it only attracts one, good luck lads, if it only attracts 1 fish, then I want that fish to find my bait. It's a 30 gram feeder, this one. Got a 2 ounce tip in. It's really nice just there with that wind on it. Empty that there. Only really lightly squalls that ground bait in there, so it's going to empty quickly. It's only shallow here if you don't know the venue. It's only about a metre, just over a metre deep out there. So this one I'm going to put some bait in. I'm just going to put a good helping of worm there. I am going to put some maggots in, but like I say, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to fish with maggots today. That'll just depend on how many small fish are out there. So this one's got some food in it. Give this one a few seconds to empty on the bottom. A tiny bit to the left, that one, but that's alright, it's only about that far away really. Just give that a second to empty. And then my last one I'm actually going to try and open up on the surface. Just shake that out of the feeder. So this one I'm going to empty on the surface, just to put a load of cloud in the water, just to try and attract something into that one lot of bait that I've just put in. So I'll really lightly squeeze that one. Well, I'm not even going to squeeze it, it's barely holding in that. This one I just want to get a bit of a cloud, just to attract something into the swim. There we go. That's it. I'm going to put 4 in on my short line. By the time I've done that, hopefully that what I've just put in out there is hopefully will have attracted something. That's it. So I'll just pop that down on there, out of the way. So this is the 11 foot slim, clipped up at, wet that braid again, clipped up at 20 metres. So I'm going to offset this line just so that I'm not reeling my other feeder back through this line, just to hopefully help give it, plenty of rest, so I'm not dragging a feeder through it all the time. So that's 1 in. Now I'm going to put 2 in with feed in now. Again, just the same as the long line. Good dollop of worm and some dead reds. In case you're wondering why I'm putting 4 in and not one big one, it's just because I like to spread it out a little bit over a metre or so. Check that out. Just to feel as though it's more inclined for a number of fish to be grazing over it instead of just one big dollop of bait, if that makes sense. Put another dollop of worm in again. Put some maggots in. Really lightly squeezing this in, because like I say, it's only a metre or so deep there, so I want this to empty virtually straight away. Bottom, shake that out, and then this last one, just like before, I'm going to empty this one on the surface just to put some cloud into it. And the plan is to, if I'm not catching on that longer line, I'm not going to leave this line too long. I will be having an early look on it if I need to. That's why I'm not putting loads of bait in. And that's why I'm feeding it now at the start. There are different ways of feeding this line, I know lots of people don't feed it till the second half and then only go on it late. I don't want to do that today. I want to try and stay a little bit active. And the reason I put it at 20 metres is just because I just think it's a little bit less selective, in case the fish aren't going to move in till late onto those 13-14 metre lines. So all I'll do now is put my hook length on. There is a 50cm hook length rule here. Well, you've got to have a minimum of 50 centimetres below your feeder, in case anyone's wondering. Put that through there. That is it. I'll start off with a nice visual. Put the tail of a worm on. Let's pick one out that looks. In fact, is that a whole worm? Let's start off with that. Let's start off. Just going to nip its head off and just pop that on there. Mount that onto the hook. Just thread it on slightly. There we go. Look at that. What fish could resist that? Put a little blob of worm in this first cast. 1-2 maggots. And that is it. I'm literally just going to probably have a couple of 5-minute casts. I don't just want to go settle straight into 10-minute casts or anything like that. Just start on 5-minute casts. Just see what happens. Keep my eyes open, what's happening around me. Get that down, start that stopwatch. There we go. And if small fish are going to be a problem, I think we'll probably find out pretty much straight away, I think. But so that's it. Got a nice big bait on. I can see right down to small fish there straight away. Yeah, small fish on. So you saw the size of the bait that I've got on there, and already the small fish are on it. It wouldn't be bad if there were 4, 5, 6 ounce fish, but yeah, as you can see, that is way too small. I'm not going to win anything with those. It's a fish first cast. Tiny little fish, aren't they? So right then, okay, so I don't know if they're going to be there all the time. They might only be there for a while. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to put 2 bits of worm on. Just going to nip that one on and then nip it in half, and then I'm going to put the other half on. I'll be absolutely honest with you, if we've got a fish like this, it might sound crude, but I'd be quite happy to step up to even a 12, and I have done that in the past. Size 12 hook. I have done that in the past on here when you're catching on bigger baits. But let's see if these fish stick around, because sometimes they're only there at the beginning. I've just seen a fish roll out there. That was definitely something rolling there. I don't think that was a bird. That might have been the first ever fish I've ever seen. No, it's not. It's a diver. There we go. It was me getting excited then. So, set that stopwatch again. So, I've got 2 bits of worm on now, still on that same size hook. Like I say, if we've got a fish with bigger baits, then I won't have a problem stepping up to a 12 in this same pattern, which is an MXB2. But like I say, that'll be determined by the size of the hook bait that we might have to use. But we'll see what happens. If these small fish remain there, I don't really want to be winding them back all day from anywhere, even on my short line. I need to experiment, you know. But I haven't seen anyone else reel any small fish in yet, which is interesting. Well, that's not moved yet anyway, so let's just hope that them small fish were just there initially. So it could just be a day where I'm going to be playing around with the feed all day, just trying to find out what's the best way to deter those small fish and pick out the better stamp fish. But my plan is to stay on this line for a good, you know, half hour, see what happens, and then I'll have a look on that short line if I need to. If not, I could just top it up as and when and stay out there. That was another quick knock then, single knock, and that's another fish there. Well, it's 2 fish in 2 casts. This one is not quite as small as the other one. Interesting to see what this one is. Could be a skimmer, this one. Nice positive bite. I mean, the bites are positive on here usually. I mean, even the bream bites usually pull it. Oh no, it's much smaller than I thought. For some reason that was coming in as though it was a better stamp fish, but right. That's Mick Axon, first one to get a net fish. There's 2. There we go. You hold him up, mate. You'll be proud. These 3 pegs. Only a pecker. That's the first net fish we've seen. Caught up to now. Loads of small fish out there. Just experimenting with hook baits and feeding now. At the moment, I'm just putting worm through now, just to see if that deters them small fish. Well, we've been fishing about 35 minutes, 40 minutes now. I've only seen Mick. Mick's had that bream, 3 pegs to my left. He did get another one next cast, a smaller one, a small skimmer. And then I've just seen someone up to my right, about 10 pegs up to my right, catch. Interestingly enough, look, I've got 3 maggots on there. I've been able to have 4 casts with that. There's another landing net going out, about 10 pegs down. So there's the odd one getting caught now. But yeah, I've just managed to have 4 casts with those 3 maggots on, and the small fish have left that alone. So it looks like the small fish have gone. There are still some there, don't get me wrong, but they're certainly not a big nuisance now like I thought they were going to be. So I think it's 40 minutes now we've been fishing, so I'm just going to top up this short line. I'm not going to have a look on it yet, because the few fish that I have seen netted have actually been from the longer lines. So I'm just going to top this up. I'll keep topping this up every half hour or so. Really looks nice with that wind coming in now. It's actually changed direction a little bit. It's coming a little bit more into us now, which always looks good. So I'm able to leave my rig out there longer now, which is obviously good. I'll be a little bit more patient. I'm really just putting worm through at the moment. I did cut the maggots out because I thought they were attracting the small fish, but to be fair, I think that was just coincidence. I think the small fish were, you know, they were moving out of the swim anyway. So all I'm doing now, I'm just sticking out there for this next half hour, slowing it down a little bit, going up to 10-minute casts, and just keep my eye on what's been caught, and just give a patient approach now time, just to see if that's going to find a net fish. Much colder today. Dad's down there. He's retiring back to the van for a little bit. Definitely much colder today. I've got my top jacket on now. That wind's chilly. I'm sure that's going to affect the fishing. Well, we've been fishing an hour, and all I've got is that one tiny little skimmer and about 5 little peckers, tiny little roach. Still getting the odd indications from them little peckers. I had some indications on this cast, and I picked up, and there is one on. I have seen another bream caught. 2 anglers to my right has just had a bream, and the only common thing that I've seen is that all 3 of the net fish that I've seen have been caught on the longer lines. So I'm just going to refeed the short line. I'll top this up every half hour until I go on it. I'm not quite sure where a bonus fish is going to come from at the minute. I'm just going to top this line up and then I'm going to just go on a bigger hook bait again. Go onto a bigger hook bait and just see if I can just sit there and just try and be a lot more selective. Hopefully these small fish will leave it alone. But at the minute I can't see where there's any sort of pattern at the moment, but it'd just be nice to get one on in the net, just so that I'm not falling too far behind and having to chase it. So what I'm gonna do is put another worm on again, just a piece of worm, a nice robust piece. Still got that same hook on at size 14. Just gonna thread that on and just see if that can pick out a better stamp fish. I don't want to be too negative with the food as well. I don't know if that's the right thing or not to do. I just feel as though because there are so many small fish out there, I've got to keep making sure that there's some bait out there. I think if I'm too negative, those little fish can obviously be just mopping everything up and there's nothing there for the better stamp fish. That's my way of thinking at the moment anyway. So I'm just going to keep putting bait in. Even though I'm not catching any net fish, I just want to make sure that there's going to be some worms out there and some of these dead reds out there if I get a visit from any better stamp fish. I want to quick rattles on this again. Like I said, I've got 3 maggots on this, so I'm assuming they're small fish, but these aren't the bream that I wanted. There are fish on that short line, but they're not the stamp that I'm needing. That was on 3 maggots. Well, I'm having some real problems with these little fish today. I've seen another bream caught about 5 pegs to my right. So that's about 5 or 6 people with single bream. Just changed my hook bait and a slightly bigger hook, and this has just nearly pulled the rod in. It's not a massive fish, but it's certainly much better. At least it's a proper net fish. I nearly pulled the rod in that. I was literally just sat there thinking, you know when you get some indications when it first goes in and you're thinking, is my hook bait even still on? That's exactly where I was. I was literally just thinking about reeling that back in, and then the rod just got, well, it hooked itself basically. So that's with a bigger hook on. So hopefully, well, it's a good sign anyway, isn't it? It's not a bad sign. It's time is it? It's 11:53 now, so we're an hour and a half in ish. We are fishing till 4 o'clock. So that's what I'm going to do. Like I said, I'm just going to keep. I don't know if the amount of bait I'm putting in is making it worse with those small fish. I don't know, but I just feel as though I've got to feed something because those small fish are obviously eating a lot of this bait. It's just a confidence thing. So let's just hope that that's a sign now that we're going to be able to pick out 1 or 2 better fish. Just don't want to fall another bream being caught. Got a good 10 pegs down. So, you know, I think it's pretty obvious that I'm just going to have to be a bit more confident now, a bit more positive with the hook bait, with the hook and the size of the bait, because I'm going nowhere with those little peckers, and there's that many of them that if you put any smaller bait on, they're just hammering it, and then you're sat there then, even if you can leave it in a while, you're sat there wondering, is your bait even still on? So that's it. Let's just hope that's a sign that there are 1 or 2 better fish out there. And when it gets to 12 o'clock, again I'm going to top up that short line. I haven't been on that line yet. Just coming up to 12:30 now. It's really not improved at all. I've got that 1 decent skimmer and then got 2 smaller skimmers and about 8 of those tiny little roach. I've just seen a couple of little skimmers caught on a shorter line, but other than that, it's just the odd single bream and odd skimmer. So I think it's time time to have a look on the short line. I've been topping it up religiously, so I'm just going to put a feeder full of bait out on my long line. I left that some bait out there now, so I'm just going to give that a rest and have a look on this shorter line. I haven't been on it yet, so I'm just going to put a little feeder on it. It's about 20, well it's exactly half an hour since I topped that line up. So I'm just going to pop a hook length on this other rod and have a look on this short line. If I don't get anything on this line, at least it's meant that I have at least given my longer liner a rest, which hopefully might make that line stronger. But it's there's no pattern at all at the minute. This venue is known for producing late on all year round really. The last hour can be the best time, so I'm not going to go chasing it too much. I've only got 2 lines to focus on, and I've been playing around. I had about 6 casts without putting any worms in, just to see if it was the worms. And to be honest, I have noticed a difference. Those tiny fish have lost interest when I don't put worm in, but I'm not catching anything else either. So read into that what you want, but I have been feeding worm all the time on the short line. So just pop this 50cm hook length on. I've just chopped that one down. A lot of my hook lengths of this style are 1 metre long, just so that I can tailor them on the bank. It just means I'm going to have loads and loads and loads tied up with different lengths and stuff. So this will be 50cm below the feeder. So let's see if we can we'll have to change that feeder, because that's the feeder I've been topping up with. I think I'm going to kick off with just try a piece of worm. Piece of worm on the hook. It's the same hook as what I've got on my long line, so it's quite a big hook. So hopefully, if we do get a bite, we're going to hook it. There we go, nice piece of worm. Pop a bit of bait in just in case we get something straight away, and at least we're going to be leaving a little bit of bait there. That's it. Right then, let's see if there's anything waiting for us. That's just gone round straight away. Something's gone straight to that. Calls here, bailiff. That was an indication straight away. Immediately, as soon as that went in. I'll give this a good... I think I'm going to give it 10 minutes. So that'll give me plenty of time to hopefully catch something on this line. But more importantly, at this stage, it means that long line has had a good 10-15 minute rest. So let's just see what happens. Well, straight away I was getting little fish rattles on that short line, so I've just put a slightly smaller bait on, and I shouldn't really be netting them really on this hook. But I mean, if they kept coming, if it was like every single cast, you know, you have a chance of putting something together, but I've got a feeling that they're not. But I'll leave that hook bait on, because if they are there in quantities that size, even if it was just a little run of fish, you know, obviously that's going to help. Just put something in the net whilst I'm resting that longer line. But it's there were lots of rattles there, indicating that there were quite a few of those there. But I don't know how long they'd stay there. But I'm just going to persevere with it. It's like I said, whenever I'm doing this, I'm resting that long line. Look, see, I'm hitting that straight. Look, there we go. Hitting that straight away. It's jet. I don't know if they're. I mean, if they were all those skimmers, then you know it wouldn't be a terrible thing, especially if I could catch them at such short range. But I've got a feeling that a lot of them fish are going to be little roach. The only way I'm going to find out is to try it, isn't it? So just keep a little bit of bait going in. I think what I'm going to do this time is just slight line it this time. Slight line it, and if they are better skimmers, see them rattling that straight away. Rattle, rattle, rattle. And that hook bait is a little bit too big for those little roach, which is why I've put a slightly, a larger piece on. Well, that short line was pretty much a waste of time. There were loads of small fish there. Got that 2-ounce skimmer on there, and I was hoping that if they could keep coming I could put a pound or two of them together, but the more I fished it the worse it got. Some little roach came in, so I've just decided to feed it. I put 2 feederfuls in on it, and that had meant that this long line had a 20-minute rest, and this is my first cast back on that long line. It's been out there 4.5 minutes. Really positive pull. Not a proper size one, but very encouraging. And the main thing as well was, I think, is that throughout them 4.5 minutes of that being out there weren't any little roach bites or rattles or anything. So maybe because I haven't been fishing it, it's just a chance to just kind of calm down, without all that activity. So if that's the way to go, I've just kind of dampened down my ground bait, just so it's really inert. I'm packing it so it's dead, really, and I'll just have to sit and be patient, and because I think all that activity is what's been bringing or encouraging them really small fish. I obviously don't want them now. If they were leaving bigger baits alone, it wouldn't be such a big problem, but even when I put half a worm on or even a full worm, and small fish are still trying to rattle the bait. So you sat there right from the first few seconds when your tip's rattled. You sat there wondering if you've even got a bait on, and you don't want to be in that position, do you? Especially if you want to be leaving it 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm just going to be a bit more patient on this long line now. Keep that short line topped up. The most well, I've only seen one angler with 2 proper bream now, and that's Mick Axon, who's 3 pegs to my left. He's had 1 short, 1 long. But I've got those 2 skimmers now, and 3 or 4 of these, so that'll equate to a bream. But hopefully what's just happened there, just being a bit more patient without those little fish there, might hopefully be a bit of a pattern, hopefully. But just going to give this a couple of 10-minute casts with that nice chunky bait on, and hopefully them small fish will leave. That looks like a small. I spoke too soon. It's another little fish. Just going to keep that mix nice and dead, and just try and avoid these little fish. I mean, there's obviously still going to be some out there, which is what just happened. But there's just obviously a hell of a lot in here at the moment. Probably can't quite make him out, but it is 25 past 1, and the angler who's at the other side of Mick Axon. Mick Axon's got 2 bream. The angler at the other side is Tony Peel. I've just been told that he's got 4 bream now. He's got 1 big one, about 4 or 5 pound, a 3-pounder. So he reckons he's got about 10 pound. So we think that's leading at the moment, from what we've heard, on the whole match. Having had 2 or 3 casts after that net skimmer, after my first cast back long, those small fish came in. And then I had a 10-minute cast with nothing, so I thought rather than just keep flogging it. As you can see, that wind's dropped now as well, which I'm sure is going to make a difference. I just refed it and came off it, and I've just gone back onto my short line now. When I first went on it, I was getting small fish rattles, but that's not moved on this cast. The toe is still there, even though the wind's dropped, so the tip's bent round a little bit, but that's all right. So I've just got to sit for bream. That is it now. So I'm just going to be, this next period, just like I said, just be a little bit more patient. If them little fish will leave that bait alone, then you can obviously sit and wait but sometimes as soon as it goes in, it's rattling straight away. So you know, you've got to bring it in. You can't just sit there hoping you've still got a bait on. So we think £10 the best at this stage. We are fishing through till 4 o'clock, so there's loads of time yet. Again, this is my first cast back on the long line. It's been out there 4 minutes, just over 4 minutes. It's not a big fish. In fact, I don't know if that's just come off, or is it still on? I think it's still on. It's not a big fish, but it's not a pecker. It's encouraging again that I've had a fish. First cast back on that long line. It's we still think, I mean, we're just coming into, what time is it? Yeah, it's a couple of minutes to 2 o'clock. So we're heading into the, well, it's the last 2 hours now. The last 2 hours, and we think £10 is winning it. Still, it's as you can probably tell by looking out there now, the wind has actually changed direction now. It's actually, I mean, it has died down a little bit, but the wind is actually off our backs now. So I don't know if that's going to make any difference. But yeah, it's switched around now, so it's off our backs. I'm just going to top up that short line. I'm going to go back out onto that long line, just see if I can get something out there. And what I am going to do is I'm religiously keeping this short line topped up. I don't know what's going to happen to this line. Sometimes, even if it is going to fish better in the last hour, for example, those fish could come from anywhere. They could come on the short, or a fish even, could come from the short line or the long line. I haven't been coming, but in my past experience is that it really could come from anywhere if you are going to get any sort of a visit. So that's why I'm going to keep these lines topped up. I've seen a bream caught on that short line, and I know that Tony Peel's got 5 bream for about £10 down to my left, and he is actually casting. He has got a really short line in. I don't know if he's had any of his fish off that line. I don't know, because I haven't been watching. Particularly with that wind now, I mean, I'd feel as though a 20 metre line, I'd be more confident in that than a one at 12 or 13 metres or whatever their short lines are. But 2 hours left, and you know, the key thing, or the main thing that I will do, is that if there hasn't been any sort of improvement going into the final hour, one thing I will do that has worked on here before for me is to just push the long line, push it a little bit harder as regards feeding, give it a rest, and then plan to spend the final 30 minutes on that line. But like I say, that doesn't always work, and if you are going to get a visit, the visit may be from fish on the short line. So that's the plan at this stage anyway, for that last hour, which is why I want to keep that short line topped up, because if I am going to do what I've just said, and when there's 1 hour left, if I push that long line, I obviously need somewhere to fish for the next 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes, because the final 30 minutes I'll be spending long. So that's why I need to keep that short line topped up and alive, as it were. But I mean, I've got a strong feeling that, based on what I've seen up to now, is that whenever I top a line up like that, like I've just topped that 20 metre line up now, I actually experimented and went straight over it a couple of times when I've done it, and I've just got rattled out with little fish. So whenever I topped that line up like I just have now, those small fish just could be coming in, mopping everything up and swimming off, so that when I go on it, there's nothing there. I don't know. But I've kept that line alive. You see the wind now, see how it's flat calm here. So 2 hours left. Well, not only has the wind changed direction, but it's started raining now. The last 20 minutes have been really quiet for everybody. I've just had a couple of tiny little roach. That's an indication there. That was quite a slow indication, actually, that. Almost a bit like a liner. It's only been out there a minute and a half. Still on that long line. Yeah, that last 20 minutes, I've had a couple of little roach like that. I haven't seen anybody catch anything for ages now. Probably over an hour since I saw anybody get a net fish.
probably about the same sort of time when that wind dropped and changed direction, so I don't know if that's had an impact, but it is the middle part of the match. Well, I'll say that. It's just gone quarter past 2. So I'm not far off that last 90 minutes. I'm going to stick to what I said. I'm going to feed this long line more aggressive at 3 o'clock and then give it a rest. I'm going to put some worm in and some dead red maggots out there. Just push it, just to, you know, I've got nothing to lose. You know, we think about £10 winning at the moment that we know of, and my 2 skimmers, well, I've got 2 net skimmers, haven't I, and bits of, I don't know what I've got, £3, £4 tops, absolute tops. So I've got nothing to lose, but having said that, I'm only a couple of bites away from £10, so that's the one good thing about these matches, and that's one of the reasons why this is such a popular venue. You know, because right up until the last 15 minutes, just about everybody's still in it. You know, the last 15, I've done it before. I've won matches on here where I haven't caught anything until the last 15 minutes, and I've had 3 breamy 3 casts and won the match in the last 15 minutes. So that's why these matches are, yes, it's not fishing very well, but everybody's in it. That was another little indication there. I've got 3 dead, 3 dead red maggots on at the moment. But the one thing that I have noticed is that the way that I like to fish here, particularly through another pecker, particularly through spring, is I like to be quite active, in the sense that, you know, you can put a couple of feederfuls in and then sit over the top of it, or you can have 2 or 3 quick casts and then slow it down a bit and you know, slop your ground bait or change the consistency of your ground bait, change the feed, you know, and quite often lots of those little things like that will get you a bite. But today, the pattern that, let's swing him, the one thing I have seen today, see, if they were coming every cast, you'd be alright, wouldn't you? But the one thing I have seen today is that, and it's, you know, it's probably what's been happening on the matches here while these small fish have been here, is that whenever you put any sort of activity into the swim, you just attract those little tiny roach. And so every time I've done it, whether I've done it with worm, whether I've done it with maggots, every single time it's just attracted small fish straight into the peg. And no matter what hook bait I've gone in on, after that little bit of activity, it's just got hammered. So I'm trying to do the opposite now, where I'm just kind of slowing it down. My ground bait's really damp now. It's not wet, it's not over wet and sloppy, it's damp, it's almost like a paste. Just trying to get it as inert as possible. Just try not to attract too many of them roach into the peg. Oh, I thought that was a bigger fish. I don't think it's one of them little tiny peckers, but this is my second cast back out on that long line. The first cast, it was out there about 4.5 minutes, and I've had a bite, a decent bite, and when I've come in, the actual bait had gone over the point of the hook. So I'm really hoping that wasn't a bream. A little skimmer. So this is my second cast out there. Oops. Just keep my eye on what's happening, because this line might get stronger on its own. I'll just monitor it for the next, up until 3 o'clock, and if not, I'm still going to stick to what I said. Well, I've just cast back out there, and it literally, as soon as it hits the bottom, the tip's rattling. Even with a nice big piece of worm on, the small fish are just rattling away. So that's it. It's 4 minutes, well, 3 minutes, yeah, just coming up to 3 minutes to 3. So I'm going to put some bait in on that long line now, and then come short, because then it's, you know, it's been 20 minutes then since I actually fed that short line. So I'm going to put some bait out there, some dead maggots out there. Like I said, I have no idea what the best way is to feed out there, because I haven't really worked it out today at all. So some maggots in there and some worms. I'm just going to lightly squeeze that, just only lightly, because I'm going to empty it. I want it to empty straight away. I'm going to put 4 of them in out there, and then have a look on this short line. Empty that straight away. This might bring in loads and loads of those little tiny roach, I don't know. But I've got to push it. I'm not just going to sit here for the next hour hoping that a bream is going to appear, because, you know, if I needed one, then maybe that might be the way to go, just by being patient. But I don't. I think I need 3, so I'm going to push it. This has worked in the past during the summer, but like I say, I can't ever remember fishing here when these little tiny roach have been like they are today. They've never really been. I've fished before when there've been lots of them here, but not when they've been as big of a problem as what they are today. Certainly with the way I'm fishing anyway. There might be a way of fishing where you're not going to get pestered by them. I've seen another bream netted down there, about 6 anglers down. Put 2 more in, then I'm going to have a look short. Not the bream that I wanted. That is first cast on that short line. A few little rattles, and that one was on. Not ideal at all. I want to quick rattles on this again. Like I said, I've got 3 maggots on this, so I'm assuming they're small fish, but yeah, little indications there. However, if I look round to the left, that is Mick Axon. That is his 5th. Unbelievable. So it's Tony on his left's got 5, I think. Mick's got 5. I haven't caught a bream. The lad on my left's not caught a bream. I've not got one, and the lad on my right, I don't think he's had a bream. That's it. Well, that wasn't the ending that I wanted, was it? I don't think there's been a bream caught on these 3 pegs here. There's been some bream caught further down, so, but I don't know if that's, you know, just where the pockets of fish we've fallen in between them. I personally don't think that. I think it's just down to the way that we've fished, or the way I've fished anyway. I just think if I'd fed less, perhaps I've fed too much worm. But those little fish have been a huge problem. I just haven't been able to put any single bait on, even, you know, a full worm, and they were rattling away, and that's really messed it up. So hindsight, before I see the result, I think I'd probably change the ground bait. I mean, I love that mix for everything. I think it's a brilliant mix, but it is quite a weak mix, and I have fished on here in previous years where weak mixes have encouraged smaller fish. I don't know if that makes any difference whatsoever, but just for my confidence, if I was coming back, I would probably change that. Use like a, I don't know, a match method dark, something like that, that are not obviously got pellets in it, but or you know, bits of 1mm pellet in there, because there's a 1mm pellet rule here. So if you're using a ground bait here, you can't have any bits of pellet in there that's over 1mm. So I'd do that just really for confidence, and probably just feed virtually nothing, feed very, very little, you know, just try not to encourage those little fish to come in. But it's going to be interesting to see what, I think Mick's finished on 5 net fish, Tony's ended up on 5 net fish. We know there's a lad down there on the MPEG, last we heard he had 5, and he's actually caught them on the pole on the MPEG, that's what we've heard. So that proves that there have been some fish short today. But I've enjoyed being back at the res. I'm going to show you the full result and everything. It's been enjoyable. It's just been a little bit disappointing that there's been so many little fish there that I just really wasn't able to fish properly. So, but I think that's just something that I've done with my feeding. I'm sure it is.
So many years has gone by, but I think about you all the time. Looks like you're changing and all, but why didn't you call? Something in the air, always something in the air. Inexplicable, I can feel it in the air. Can you feel me?
Well, I thought I got about 3, maybe 4 at a push, but they've gone £5 odd, so they weighed a bit more than what I thought. Way off the pace. I've had an indication every cast, pretty much, you know, and so I honestly believe the lad on my left's not weighed in. He hasn't caught a bream, I haven't caught a bream, and I don't think the next peg's had a bream. There are sometimes areas where they don't catch bream. There are areas sometimes where they do catch bream. But I don't think that's the reason. I think if I'd fished it differently, I'm sure there were 1 or 2 bream out there at some stage, somewhere. So yeah, for me, I'd probably have a switch of ground bait, probably fish further out as well. If I'd known the wind was going to drop, like it has, or go over our backs, I think an extra bit of range might have helped. So I probably would have fished a bit further. Not fed as much, certainly not as much worm. And I have fished with decent sized baits, but obviously I think maybe I've just fed a bit too much, and that's what's brought those small fish in. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they weigh down there. Tony Peel said it is 5 fish on 5 bream, and there are only 2 of them are bream, and the other 3 are skimmers. So you get the picture. You know, we don't really know what might win it. So I'll put the full result up for you. I hope you've enjoyed following me through this match. It's been really nice to come back to this venue. It's a fantastic venue, and it's one that I've got quite a bit of history at over the last 10 years. This is where my feeder fishing journey really started, here on the matches here anyway. So I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of an insight. If you have, please give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this from me on this channel. So I'm going to get this gear packed away into the van. I'm taking Dad for fish and chips on the way home, and I'll put the full result up for you.